Time for us to do the newspaper review. Joseph Akable is here. We've got the papers, but we have a new conversation here on JoyNews. It's called The Exits.
Yes, it's an amazing new program.
Yes.
Put it that way, that is coming up featuring you. I saw that amazing promo. I don't know whether our viewers have seen it. I didn't know that you could bring out a lot of people that way. I mean, a lot out of them that way. The way you did with Inusa Fuseni.
Yep.
You got him to do push-ups and do some exercise and everything.
Listen, if you haven't seen that promotion yet, that conversation is coming up this weekend. So let's just give you a little reminder of what we're talking about.
He announced his retirement after spending 14 years representing the people of Tamale Central constituency. On The Exit, we hear the story of Inusa Abdullahi Bistav Fuseni.
My story is a comedy of errors.
And there are a few controversies to clear up too.
Are you also still being investigated for taking double salary as MP and minister then?
I never took double salary.
And then you know those memories that never go away.
Yes, so even delegate cartooned me. That was the time that they believed that they cartooned me being put in the dustbin.
In 2010, Mr. Fuseni lost his wife.
She invested and reposed a lot of trust in the police hospital. When it was time for them to show her love, they left her on the bench to die.
And what does he make of the parliament he's leaving behind?
Even committees engaging in supervisory jurisdiction of parliament in ways that clearly shows that they are interested in some gains.
And at 58, he's got an incredible stamina too.
Just when you jump out of the bed, straight away.
Having been under the leadership of 4 different speakers of parliament, he has got a favorite.
My favorite clearly is...
Don't miss The Exit with Mamavi Osu Abuaje on JoyNews.
One of the questions I got, Joseph, who the favorite is, and people are guessing. Did I tell you? Maybe.
Yeah. I think you did.
But if I had not, you would have guessed wrong.
Certainly.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have got it right. And I mean, those who want to know, they should tune in Saturday and Sunday.
Exactly.
You get the answer. I'm not telling you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's jump straight into the newspapers. So you can, watch out for those MPs who have served really long, who aren't going back to Parliament. They've kind of retired as MPs. You can retire, yes. That's what they've done. We're sharing their stories with you here on JoyNews. Let's do the newspapers. I've got the Daily Graphic, the Times, the Publisher, Custodian. We see the Daily Guide, the BNFT. Joseph would begin with the Daily Guide newspaper.
The front page of the Daily Guide has the story from the ECOWAS event yesterday. Mali coup leaders storm Ghana, and it has a photograph of President Akufo-Addo meeting a gentleman who is in a military-styled attire, with some strange-looking mask on his face. It was quite an interesting image for me yesterday. The coup leaders coming to Ghana to have talks.
We were told they had to go back to their hotel to change.
Oh,
something like that. I'm not
see.
sure it was such a controversy.
I see. Interesting. Ignore Okada propaganda. Parties beg EC to reduce 100,000 fees, also on the front page. And flower truck crashes 2 buses, 14 perish. Another story on the front page of the Daily Guide. Very sad story there. We brought to you those details yesterday. And African football gives to Fortune's Academy. Spurs ahead of Man U for Bale's signature. And player fights fan after loss. Also on the back page of the Daily Guide. We can do the front page of the Dispatch, the Daily Dispatch. It has a rejoinder 2020 press filing fee of 100,000 cedis. And in 2016, apart from Akufo-Addo and Mahama, the 5 others got a total of 1.8% of the votes cast. Okay. So Ghana is officially a 2-party state, I guess. And EC defends filing fees for 2020 elections. And obviously, those who get a 1.8% are the ones who are complaining.
Because they won't get a refund.
Because if you perform well, you get a refund. Hey, this is very unfair.
No, I mean, I think it's just to...
Those who don't perform well, they don't have their financial muscle. They have to struggle and get 100,000 and they don't get it back.
If you you don't perform significantly well, what's the point in being on the ballot?
In simple terms, we are saying that they don't have any business contesting.
I mean, that's the reality. Seriously, I get the whole democracy thing that you've been preaching since Monday, I think, on this issue. But the reality is this. Would you invest in an area where you can't make your money back?
I wouldn't. I mean, and I think the argument has been made that those political parties, they need to concentrate on the parliamentary level. And because in times past, the CPP used to have seats. At least they had Jomoro in the Western region. They used to have Elembele too. I mean, same with the PNC, they had seats up north. But now the parties don't have any seats anymore. I mean, so it begs the question why they are not concentrating in those areas. That's where they should be putting their funds to try and get some seats in there, in specific areas where you know that it's easy for the party to win. Then afterwards, you can look at the presidency. But
yeah.
I mean,
but the General Secretary of the NDC makes a good argument on PM Express with a suggestion so that the EC will allow them to do a lot of the activities that they do prior to the main election in terms of, you know, they supervise their internal party elections. They can do that pro bono, so they can save all those monies towards this. It's not a bad idea. But they're also calling for an IPAC meeting to discuss the amount that has come in terms of the filing fee. The Electoral Commission wants them to write to them.
But the question really is what does the EC need 100,000 cedis for? Do we know? Because the EC is a public funded body, so it means that if they need papers to register the individuals, the state allocates funds for them. In fact, they draw up a budget which they take to Parliament. There's a special committee that deals with it and approves it. And so it begs the question, and there's not a body that you say you are cash strapped. If that is the argument, they should put it forward for us. I mean, because they are saying that they are going to refund it. The idea is that if you perform more, it's given back to you.
Exactly.
So it's not really a case that they want to raise some funds.
No, I'm not sure they've said it's because they don't have enough funds. But can you imagine if it was so easy for everybody to afford, if it was, I want to say cheap, but I'm not saying cheap because I can't find another word.
I personally see nothing.
Can you imagine a ballot paper with
I saw one in, I think, Nigeria or so. It's a long...
Yeah, but is that reasonable? When you know that most of them, like 90% of all the names and the parties on the paper, I mean, they're just there for being there, for the sake of being there. Well, because they are allowed to be there.
There are ways of taking some of them out. One, the requirement for political parties that you should have presence across the country. And so that could be a way of taking out some of the people on the front pages. There's one in front of you. Don't mention it, but there's one there. We can do the front page of the Daily Dispatch now. Okay, so I told you about the 1.8% story and the EC defending one. So let's see if we can do the back page. It also has the story about the filing fee on the back page of the Dispatch. Let me quickly wrap up with the Finder and the Ghanaian Observer. Then Mamavi comes in. The Finder has President Akufo-Addo wants an end to the Malian political crisis, and EC should generate future voters register from the National Identification Authority. And Zipline delivers 162,017 critical life-saving medicines / blood to 961 health facilities. That is it for the Finder. The final one for me will be the Ghanaian Observer. A truth stance, it says, observing Ghana in truth. A vote for John Mahama will reverse Ghana's fortunes, is coming from Dr. Abdul Hamid. And Mahama is an impediment to youth development. And Akufo-Addo lauds the GEXIM Bank leadership. And VIP commissions 56.7 million liquid bulk terminal at Takoradi Port. And Akufo-Addo fights for peace in Mali, also on the front page of the Ghanaian Observer. The back page has a story about Gary Neville sings praises for Tariq Lamptey. He is a player. He was in action for Chelsea against Brighton over, I think, on Monday. And there are already calls for the Ghanaian FA to ensure that they get him to come and play for Ghana. But Party speaks about Ghana deputy captaincy role also there. And Messi top of Forbes money list in 2020. That's our captain who wanted to run away. Mamavi.
Let's do the Daily Graphic newspaper. Front page, hand over to civilian government. ECOWAS leaders urge Mali junta. That's something that got the international community also talking because, of course, as chair of ECOWAS, this was our president's first major task, and we hosted all these personalities in our country. The inserts there's that of President Akufo-Addo addressing the ECOWAS meeting with him, Mr. Goodluck Jonathan, who is mediating this whole process, and also the president of the ECOWAS Commission. So the highest decision-making body of the Economic Community of West African States has urged the military junta in Mali to within days hand over to a civilian administration to steer the transitional process to restore constitutional rule in that country. The chairman of the ECOWAS heads of states and government, President Akufo-Addo, said immediately the military junta handed over to civilian body to steer the process, ECOWAS would lift the sanctions it had imposed on Mali. I listened to the analysis, international experts Vladimir Nchidanso and also Dr. Kwesi Enin. It looks like this is not, like a straightforward issue. It's not as simple as this, as we've seen in the deadlines that's been given. Well, we're told that the military representatives who came to that meeting indicated they had to go back to Mali and then, get a response. They have to refer and come back to the table. But Mr. Goodluck Jonathan, the former Nigerian president who's mediating, the mediator in this, would give feedback after a week to the ECOWAS body. So there's a lot more to still expect on this. It's not over yet. Parties express mixed views over filing fees. We've been talking about it. Telcos reduce telecommunication service tax. I got a text message from my service provider, and they had announced, I think on the 12th of September, that effective 15th of September, they were going to reduce the communication service tax from 9% to 5%, and that your talk time and data purchases will reflect the tax reduction. I'm trying to monitor to see how I would know that something has changed and I'm either getting more talk time or more data, or I'm not sure. How do you check that?
It's very difficult unless there are some apps that you're able to download that monitors the data you are using, and so that would be the most effective way. But generally, people hold a view that data runs very fast here in Ghana, especially because of the fact that they are actually not stable in every part of the country. There are places, sometimes even at home, there are parts of the building that when you go into, it moves from LTE to something else, and eventually it comes back, maybe 3G, and comes back in between. And so, once the reduction is going to be effected, we expect that it will last a bit longer. I think the good thing about the recent changes to the data issue was the non-expiration thing that was brought in, because it used to be a very big issue. When you buy a lot of it and you're unable to use it, then it also just runs.
But honestly, Joseph, I think sometimes we talk and we make noise. The thing doesn't expire, but when your credit runs out, it runs out anyway. So what's the point?
Yeah, that's true.
On page 20, this is good news, and this is actually a major twist, and some people are attributing it to the upcoming elections because it's getting really heated. I'm talking about the fact that all customers of the collapsed financial institutions are to receive cash as settlement for their deposits that were locked up in the defunct institutions. This is because the government has converted the bonds that were initially used to cover parts of the deposit of some customers to the collapsed financial institutions into cash and paid same to the deposited. This means that unlike previously, when some of the customers were to receive 5-year non-interest bearing bonds as part payments for their deposits, all customers affected by the banking sector cleanup would now receive cash. This is good news, but it's not just, again, as simple. I know people who have had to travel from different parts just to receive their monies in bits. And sometimes if I did like a joint account with you, Joseph, and you are like in Kumasi and I'm in Accra, each time we get the call, we both have to go together. So it's a lot of inconvenience, but we know where we have come from. You can say that it's not the regulator's fault. okay, no, let me not say it's not the regulator's fault immediately. Let me just say that you will have to go through some inconveniences, but the good news is at least you get your money back.
Yes,
except that it's a lot of inconvenience.
Yes, and it's good that they are ensuring that everyone gets his money. There's this story, very worrying story from yesterday's accident where 14 people died. You know, this morning, late last night actually, there was another accident at this time around the Gumwa area. 5 people died on the spot. It was a head-on collision. We actually heard from an eyewitness, someone who was actually in one of the cars. And he said while they were moving, they saw a vehicle trying to overtake another vehicle. So it came into their lane and just ran into them quickly. And so it's another unfortunate incident. So it means that within 48 hours, we've lost 19 people to road accident. And very sad.
You know, it's just become, it's just that statistics. Can we move away from the numbers? Like, when would we begin to see that all the talk, the plenty talk, is actually resulting in something on the ground, like something real? So, for instance, I see trucks that have overloaded, okay? But if you drive on a long stretch like Accra to Kumasi, you'd find that there are various checkpoints on the road.
Yeah, they make it true.
So how do they get past all these checkpoints? You know, like, something isn't right.
It's a whole, it's a broad problem with lots of angles to it. We all use the road. We see how some of the drivers drive on the road. Drivers who switch lanes without using a traffic indicator, they just switch lanes. There are people who are needlessly speeding. And it's worrying sometimes because you wonder where they are heading to. And like we've been saying for Arrive Alive campaign, it's better to arrive late than to not arrive at all.
Yeah.
So when you want to get somewhere early, it only makes sense that you set off on time. If you know that you need 3 hours to make the journey, make sure you set off and get there within 3 hours at the time that you want to. You don't set off an hour late and you try to make up by moving at a neck break speed and dodging cars and moving in between like it's some video game that they are playing. These are human lives.
Yeah.
And anyway, it's very unfortunate that these things keep happening. And the point you keep making also, it falls at the doorstep of law enforcement agencies. Their aspect is there. We have licensing authorities that give licenses to cars that are not roadworthy. In terms of the roadworthy license certificates, those ones are also there. You also have drivers that are reckless. You have passengers that are also impatient and shouting at drivers to move fast, And when people are even complaining, I remember some years back, I was in a car, the driver was speeding, I was complaining, and it was as though I was the only crazy person in the car. Yes, they were telling me that, I mean, this is normal. I saw it on crowd. That's what they're saying to me.
Yeah. And we have a National Road Safety, it used to be a commission, it's now an authority.
Yeah.
What's the difference that we're seeing with the upgrade, for instance?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not enough to, and yesterday, and I appreciate what they do because they said they've heard different stories, different eyewitness accounts, stories from the drivers that survived the incident and some of the passengers as well, and they're going to reenact and ensure that it doesn't happen again. But I guess because it's not just them, there are different bodies. So you talked about the police, for instance. There are different actors that come together. But we need to find, because you can't have an accident, look at the impacts.
Yeah.
And this is the STC from the accounts that we've heard. This is the bus that actually noticed. He saw it and he tried to avoid it. That's why you don't see so much damage if you compare the STC to the other bus that we see. This, can you imagine, Joseph? And it just, you remember the one that happened in Cape Coast?
Yeah.
The bus was totally damaged, and this is like a big bus.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
and it's not that we are being critical of these state agencies. I mean, they exist to ensure that some of these things are minimized or do not happen. And so when they happen, it's only fair that we raise the issues. Because I recall when Ebony passed on, there was a serious national conversation. In fact, the agencies we are talking about, they held meetings and came up with plans. Some of them included are fixing traffic lights at various places, fixing street lights at various places, ensuring that there are speed cameras. We talked about a lot of fanciful ideas. And late night driving, I always say that it's very dangerous because of the lighting. And because there are no street lights, you just have your car light up against the other vehicle's light.
Exactly.
Which is blinding if it's pitch dark.
Yeah.
So
that's the situation that I face every day on my stretch.
Yeah.
And this is like, what, a 45 minutes drive. And you have to solely rely on your own lights and the lights of other drivers. Everybody's trying to survive.
So if you are fortunate and you are familiar with the road, you can know where there are potholes, you can know when to take your time. But imagine a driver who is unfamiliar with the road.
Yep.
Just moving, you think you're on a smooth road, moving fast, then within a second you see something in front of you, try to dodge and you just run into someone else.
What is also most painful is the fact that sometimes you're doing the right thing, or you're driving they say defensive driving. You're doing all the correct things. Somebody will just bring his nonsense and come and crash into you. Yeah.
So we are all at risk.
Listen, we will talk about this matter again, but we're just urging, if you're stepping out, please, we beg you. We've been on this campaign, this Arrive Alive campaign, for a while now. Just look out for you and the next person. There are people who don't care about their lives, but you have to care about their lives for them just so you can survive. So just be a little patient on the road today. Let's just quickly run through some of the papers, but can we also get myjoyonline.com on standby as we go through our portal? In the Times, same ECOWAS story on the front page, the accident story that we've been talking about, 14 perished, 35 injured. And then 5 political parties, independent candidates, CSOs decry EC's filing fee. NPP Deputy General Secretary says it's okay. But that's normal, right? I mean, yeah, that's what we've seen with an incumbent party siding with the Electoral Commission all the time. This is not new. If it was the other way, we would have seen
the NDC is complaining their money is too much. Just 4 years down the line. Very interesting.
Yeah, and then on the back page, New Jabbing South loses almost 70% revenue. Details of that story is also there on the back page of the paper. Joseph, is there a paper that you haven't done? I think pretty much.
I've touched on the main ones.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's do the Business and Financial Times. Vice President inaugurates $56.7 million US dollar liquid bulk terminal at Takrady Ports. Airports company postpones mandatory online COVID-19 test payment directive. Airlines seek aggressive advertisement to sensitize travelers. What does it mean? What does it mean, really? Also address unsustainable indebtedness to Ghana Gas. That's the Public Interest and Accountability Committee and the Institute for Energy Security. They want government to address what they describe as unsustainable indebtedness to the Ghana National Gas Company. Banks' reliance on Bank of Ghana for credit support drops 91.7%. You can read details of all these stories in the Business and Financial Times newspaper. MyJoyonline.com, and Joseph will take us through our news portal.
Yes, so the stories here, we have Electoral Commission should generate future voters register from the NIS coming from the AG's office. An ECOWAS meeting will bring peace to Mali. Will implement free senior high school better is coming from Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman. Samuel Oku makes a case for 4 more to do more. And there are some other stories having to do with legal education and also inflating filing fees to raise revenue for electoral commissioners unprincipled. And what is the purpose of the 100,000 filing fee? Is coming from the NDC. Government's recent sword cutting ceremonies at Sakawa. It's coming from the NDC flag bearer, John Dramani Mahama. Okay, Sakawa again.
I remember there's ASEPA trying to get, well, they don't need a permit to demonstrate, but they need to notify.
The police.
Exactly. And they were denied.
Yeah, and which is again in a manner that is contrary to the position that has been affirmed by the courts, because the requirement is once an individual notifies you and you don't want him to demonstrate, you need to apply for an injunction at the High Court. Not ex parte, as was the case in the past, that has been set aside to, you need to notify him on notice, then you both meet and argue over it. But I mean, I think we are tired of saying this over and over again. The right to them, we saw it in the case of the Economic Fighters League too. The right to the police that we want to demonstrate, the police response that will not approve it. You don't have the power of approval. I think by now we shouldn't be having this conversation.
Well, they probably could have used the excuse of COVID, but then they say, even if you did that, that won't be justifiable because you allowed some people recently to demonstrate on the Sakawa, the Achim Sakawa issue. Why won't you let us?
Yeah.
Well, we have to make way for sports. We've got our trivial NSM question. It's a problem question. Can we have the question just before we make way for sports? Let's try who can, get a hand on that trivial question. But I'm not just asking you. This one is a 20 kg box is dropped 13 meters. How much work was done on the box? A 30 kilogram crate is pushed 15 meters across the floor if 19 N. Where does 90 N? Where is the producer of the Newton? Of force was used to achieve this motion. How much work was done? Even me, I'm asking questions. Listen, what we need you to do with this problem question is to solve it, record it. You explain how you solved it. Can you?
I think on Friday we
Joseph?
should. No, I can. But I think on Friday.
Can?
Yes, but
okay.
I think on
Let's
Friday.
Go for sports.
On Friday we should try solving one, the two of us.
Like me and you.
Yeah, we should try.
I'm not a physics person. I'm not a physics person. Maybe biology I could try, but not physics. So we will come back. Joseph will be back. He will try question 1 or 2. Maybe. I'm not
back.
sure.
I'm going to some place.
Who said you're not coming back? Let's make way for sport. I guess the whole of Africa is excited for Aubameyang. That's part of the stories that Oriku will be telling us as he signs another 3 years for the Gunners. Sports is up next.